Welcome back once again to Wizard World Virtual Experiences as the crowd emojis wildly. You can clap too from the comfort and safety of your home. But show us those emojis, show us you're watching, show us that love, give us those thumbs up, give us those hearts, give us those exclamation points, and all those weird things you can create on Twitch. Because we are here again for Rewatch Wednesdays, everybody. That's right. We have free celebrity panels on the weekends, and then we come midweek and bring in some of our favorite nerds, our favorite podcasters, our favorite geeks, and we all geek out and watch our favorite clips from last week's panels. We have folks already tuning in. Noah Haupt is watching from Rome. Kanitha Meeks, OKC. Brooklyn's in the house. Seth is watching from, Seth Haas is watching from his living room. Everest is watching from Alberta. Shout out your country, shout out your state. Thanks for hanging with us. One of our favorite things that we used to do at physical conventions was have these nerd panels where it was just a bunch of nerds on a panel talking about the things they know and love. And so this is our best recreation of it. So I'm very excited. My name is Mike G. I'm a regular host with you all here at Wizard World Virtual Experiences. But I'm going to bring out two of my favorite moderators that you've seen on many panels. Both of them actually moderated an X-Men the Animated Universe or series panel earlier this year. One of them did earlier this year. One of them did just this past weekend. They are both part of the Hall of Justice podcast, which is a regular superhero themed podcast that comes out. And we've streamed it here a couple times. I'll let them speak a little bit more about that when they get out here. But without further ado, please welcome to the virtual stage, Seth Everett and Victor Dandridge, everybody.
Whoa! What's going on? I want to go.
Look at that.
That's right, Petit.
Look at that Seth entering with a classic Wolverine
Love
line.
that.
Hey, Austin, Texas in the house, Portland in the house.
Yo.
If you're
Nice.
watching, we can see your stream, whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. Pop in any reactions, any comments, any questions, anything at all. Pop it in the chat there, and we'll get to it if we see it. But we're super excited to rewatch some of our favorite clips from this past weekend's X-Men, the Animated Universe panel. Woo, it was the doozy. It was the
Oh
doozy.
my God.
I thought we had a bunch of guests the first time. This week we had Wolverine, Gambit, Beast, Rogue, Storm, Mr. Sinister, Morph, and obviously creator Larry
Morph.
Houston.
Didn't he die?
Whoa. Spoilers, bro.
Spoilers.
We had two panels. It's the first time we did back-to-back panels. It was an epic event, and if you haven't seen the whole thing, we recommend going back in our video section and checking it out. But we had Cal Dodd, Chris Potter, George Buza, Lenore Zan, Allison Seeley Smith, who's joined the X-Men cast for the first time for this type of reunion, which is amazing.
Awesome.
Chris Britton and Ron Rubin. So cool. Victor was shivering with excitement.
You don't even know, okay?
Before the panel starts. I know both of you are giant comic book fans, but specifically X-Men, and even more specifically X-Men the Animated Series. Tell us a little bit about how your nerddom began, and then how excited you were, both of you, to host parts of these panels.
Seth, you got to go first, because if I nerd out about this, like, it'll be crazy.
Well, it was crazy because, Mike, you introduced me to a lot of these guys at a physical convention.
Yeah.
So we met in New Orleans at the beginning of this year. This is pre-COVID. And we had this dinner with George and Cal and Lenore, and all Lenore wanted to do was talk politics. And all of it was so cool. And you heard these guys, and they all sound just like their voices, except for Chris Potter, because he's not Cajun. But just this idea that these guys were all friends, and they're all Canadian. And there was a thing back then, Marvel was going bankrupt, and they wanted to go for the cheapest voice actors they could find. And they hired this company out in Canada, and they brought these guys who were such genuine friends. They were so cool, and they were so great and excited just to be with each other.
That's
because
awesome.
they hadn't done the panel thing all along. They just started this like 3 or 4 years ago, and they are living the life. And you've seen the fans gush over these guys.
Heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Chris talked about that. He was talking about how he didn't realize like the reach that the X-Men show had. And I mean, that makes sense too, because this is pre-internet. Like you don't have the fan groups and all that stuff being able to just radically tell you how much we love you. But we do love you, all of you X-Men guys. Absolutely. Yeah, for me, man, it was the perfect time because it was right when I was getting into comics. So it was like the death of Superman and then X-Men the Animated Series. So the combination of those two things hitting it like just that perfect crescendo. I'm like 10 years old. It's everything that I wanted it to be. And that's literally why I'm in the comic book field now. So yeah, it's all their fault. Like all the things, totally their fault.
Well, Victor, you gave a personal shout out to Larry Houston, who is obviously the genius
Yes.
behind it. And oh my God, when Larry described, and again, go check it out on the panel. He might say it in one of these clips. I'm not sure. He was like, I was the writer, I was the art designer, I was
Yes.
the storyboard artist, I was the producer, I was the casting director. And he's like, and it was such a proud accomplishment. And I thought it was very amazing. He said, as a Black comic book artist at the
Yes.
time, to be able to do all those things and have such success was so important to him. And he just loves it. He loves it. He lives it.
That's awesome.
He's, you know what I mean? Oh, it gave me chills when he said that. I thought,
Dude,
it
I
was,
love that. I love that.
yeah.
When he came on our panel, it was at his anniversary, and he was away at a hotel in the lobby.
Oh, that's
He was
that's
in the
the
lobby,
testament.
got a panel. I said, dude, what are you doing? Go.
That's
go
a
be with your
testament.
wife.
Come on, man. That's how much he loves it, man. And like I did mean it too. Like he is who I want to be when I grow up. And just I didn't know that was the case. Like that's the thing that makes it so amazing is he did such amazing work and it influenced me so much. And then to find out, you know, that he's a Black creative, it means so much more to me in retrospect, which is, you know, that's a beautiful thing.
And
Yeah.
he
Well,
loved like all the Easter eggs that they put in.
Oh,
That's
my God.
all him. Like he
So
put
dope.
War Machine and Spider-Man and Black Panther.
So dope. So
like
dope.
these little 2-second cameos, and he was like, he wanted standards and practices to catch him. He was going to keep doing it,
Like,
and then he always.
Did you
upped
see
the
me?
ante.
Did you see me? No. It's
And
it's mutant number 6. That's all. It's just it doesn't even count.
That's genius.
He talked a little bit about that. So we kicked off the panel on Saturday, and shout out to some of the fans watching. Brian Johnson says last weekend was so great. Cal Dowd did a shout out for me. My wife, we're from Portland, Wilsonville, Oregon, near Portland, Oregon. So I know
Nice.
Jazz is in the comments too, also from Oregon. Brian says my wife Lee has been a loyal fan since the X-Men animated series started.
Yes.
Dazzler is watching from Poland, and it's 1 a.m. here.
Whoa.
But Dazzler
welcome.
says I saw X-Men and I'm in. So
yes, love that.
Box of Sulfur said the audio is a little bit low, so we appreciate that, Box of Sulfur.
yeah,
so
yeah.
we got our man Jerry in the background there. So Jerry, you can bump us a little bit. That'd be sweet.
All right.
But let's take a look at this first clip. We kind of kicked off the panel, or Victor kicked off the panel, just asking them. Victor admitted how big of a nerd he was and entering the series, but was curious about the voice actors and how they kind of came into it and what their familiarity was with the series. So here they are talking a little bit about that at the beginning of the panel. Take a look.
So everyone else, were you familiar with the X-Men before you were cast?
Go for it,
I
Kev.
was.
Yeah.
I was very much so.
Okay. That's what I'm talking
'Cause
about.
I remember when the very first X-Men comic book came out.
Nice.
Wow.
That's what
I
I'm
was
talking
like
about.
10.
I love Look at that simpatico right there. 10 years old.
Who then?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I think I was 2.
It means to be one of the original characters. That had to be something really cool to kind
And
of.
now you're 4.
On the golf course, I use that a lot.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Chris, what about you? Were you familiar with the X-Men much?
He's wearing his Wolverine jacket.
Oh yeah.
George and Lenore and Cal and Allison. I was more familiar with the cast and kind of a fan of the people I was working with.
I can totally understand that.
But I didn't know anything about the X-Men. And yeah, it was and I really didn't realize how much impact that the animated series had until, frankly, many years later.
Wow.
Part of it was my lack of knowledge about it, but also being in Canada. We just didn't realize what impact it was having. And so, no, I didn't know.
Wow. That's
It's
incredible.
also information that wasn't shared.
True. You know, pre-internet days, you know, no chat rooms. So I can definitely
True.
see.
Yeah.
Lenore, what about you?
And
Did
I
you-
didn't know anything about it. I
Really?
did not know the X-Men. No, I did not. And we were just told we were auditioning for an X project, like Project X. But that could have been anything, right?
Right.
You know,
And
I thought it's
Lenore-
it's a
Lenore had
mysterious
auditioned
project.
for so many projects called X.
Man, that was so dirty.
It's not true. I was a scream queen in my 20s. Let's put it that way. I did
There
a
we
lot
go.
of horror films.
Lenore
did
took
do
some people to
horror
court
films, and of
who
course,
published
horror
some
films
pictures when
involve
she was
young
running for
women
office.
in
She
underwear half the
stands
time.
up. She's
You don't
amazing.
play around. That's right.
She does not fool around.
IMDb is about to hit a
if you
huge
got it,
spike
flaunt
right
it,
now.
right?
That's right. That's right.
Flaunt it.
That's right.
There's flaunting and then there's flaunting.
He's in like
Now,
this
Larry, when did
pool
you
room.
come into- Yeah, his echo was extreme. First fall in love with them.
I guess I fell in love with them back in the '60s, man. When I was a kid growing up, I bought the books off the newsstands.
Yes.
And I followed the X-Men since it was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee.
I love Larry's studio space.
I pretty much knew
Very
all the
different in this
pieces of
panel.
X-Men up until the point when we got the show on the air.
That's awesome.
And I had all of this. I tell people I had all of this useless trivia that wouldn't give me employment, and it was only useful on the show.
We appreciate you doing that sincerely. Like some of the different cameos that you worked in there were a highlight to young comic book fans like myself, who could name the random people that are popping up. I'm like, oh, I know who that is. I get that reference. That's it. That's amazing. So everyone else, were you?
So cool. So cool.
Told you I was geeking out, man.
That moderator was something else.
Yo, I was in a place, man. This is like seriously. Okay, I came into this business as a comic book creator. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be able to have a conversation with some of the voices that influenced me like that. Like that's like y'all gotta forgive me on that one. Like, come on.
Well, and the character depth that show had,
Oh.
and the ability to grow with people and to see them evolve.
Exactly.
We had never saw that. Even the great
Never.
Batman the Animated Series,
Didn't have
from
that.
episode 1 to episode 50, it's the same guy. But in this, you saw from season 1 to season 2 to season 3, and you saw that
People
in season
change.
3. And Victor, you and I have talked about this a lot on the podcast. In season 3, when they went prime time,
Yes.
because they had the Yuriko episodes
Right.
and then the Phoenix Saga,
Yes.
and the animation quality was top rate.
It was great. It was great.
It was
So great.
unbelievable. They would watch this. They would record it, and then 9 months later, they
Right.
would get the footage back, and they were like, "We're watching this on too small a TV."
We need
It
a
was
huge
wild.
screen, man.
Yeah, Larry said it took them 9 months per episode, which is
Yeah.
insane. You know what I mean? When you think about,
Nuts.
South Park or whatever, doing it in a week, or, it's crazy.
Right.
That people are
Right,
doing.
flash animation and traditional animation are totally different.
Totally
No,
different.
well, and that's the crazy thing. It was all hand done. My God, it's beautiful. Catherine Connor watching says, as a Gambit cosplayer, I love seeing Chris Potter. It made my entire day. So
Yes.
cool. Yeah. That segues into the next thing. Victor put them on the spot and asked them who their favorite X-Men was. Like, they wouldn't just say themselves. But
I mean,
yeah, no, of course. There actually was some real fun, some real cool
It's like
answers.
asking Victor what his favorite podcast is.
right.
So Jazz actually asked us specifically who our favorite X-Man is. I'm going to give you both more of a break than Victor gave the panelists this Sunday. I'm going to play the clip, and then we're going to come back and talk about our favorite X-Men.
Fair game.
all right?
Fair game.
Here's those celebs talking about their favorite X-Men.
And on this one, who is your favorite
Of course,
X-Men?
Sugar. I still love Rogue. Rogue is still my favorite, but I have a little soft spot for Gambit, of course,
Yes, we all do.
which
We
only
all do.
grows over the years, But I love all the characters, but I love Rogue is one of my favorite characters I ever played in my entire career.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I was
George, what about
totally
you?
in love with Beast.
That's awesome. I mean, he was fantastic. He was like that sweet, subtle accent of the longtime comic book goodness to the show that they didn't overuse. In fact, I think they kind of underused him. I needed more Beast in the first season. I still think that's true. But I definitely understand that.
Oh, he was arrested. Remember?
What about you? Right.
Oh boy.
Chris.
Well, I love them all equally. That's the truth. But I loved playing Gambit for sure. I think I always really liked Wolverine as a character, and
I was not expecting that answer.
Canadian aspect of Wolverine. I thought that
Especially
was represented.
with Cal sitting there,
Right.
eating
Making
it
the
up.
face.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
Gambit, you can't help but feel like an outsider when you play a character like Gambit. So he wasn't as inclusive. So
That's such a different take on him too. Like he's right.
I don't have a favorite. I
After this clip, you got to hear the Cal Dodd Jubilee story.
Respect that. Cal, you don't like Wolverine at all, do you? I mean, obviously.
Got the Wolverine jacket on.
Wolverine jacket, but you know,
he brings the claws.
All the yeah, he's got the claws.
The writers were just brilliant. And I loved Rogue's voice because I always loved her voice, and I just loved listening to her. And I liked Cable. I like Gambit. Beast was, of course, my favorite. Like in the show, I think he was too. But I just like Gambit because he was like the ladies' man and a groovy
So
dude.
suave.
That's right. This one, come on, chef. And
Chris, it's totally your fault that I took French in high school. Like it's literally.
and Bishop, I like Bishop, and was it Bishop that called? Wolverine called him Rookie, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Back off, Rookie. And he called Wolverine, shut up, old man. You know, that kind of stuff. I like Bishop too, and Cable.
If I
Like
could add that-
Sabretooth too.
Yeah.
I think that
Sabretooth was phenomenal, and I spent most of the time with God bless him, with Sabretooth doing our fighting scenes. That's all it was screaming. You could not talk, let alone sing after doing an hour.
I can't even imagine what that sounded like. Just a lot of.
I think as far as my working memories, doing this would have been working with Norm Spencer. I found myself. I often found myself in the studio with Norm because he was always cherry picking the small roles.
We're getting a secret sauce right now.
He was.
Yo, I love that he had that picture ready. I love that.
He was one entertaining guy to be around.
Yeah.
And so he was a favorite of mine too.
Of course.
He called Norm Spencer.
What a sense of humor.
Recently, that's crazy. So it is in true memorial that we bring him up today. Larry, did you have any other favorite characters?
Oh, he better be careful. This is a.
All my favorite. Look, my favorite has been all of these guys and gals.
Oh, good answer, Larry. Good.
They were perfect.
Super diplomatic.
Very PC.
You know, most people don't remember. Myself, Will Mineo, and Rick Holberg. We tried to get the X-Men on the air first time. I did Pride of the X-Men.
Pride of the X-Men.
And
Wolverine's Australian.
Right.
And it didn't sell. And so, but we did our best back then. But we did our really best when we got all of these actors together and put on the show, and it lasted for 5 years. So for me, it's all of these voice actors made the show.
Now, do you think that would have happened, Larry, if our dollar was not worth a lot less than yours? Do you think that you would have come to Canada, you Canadian cast members?
If the pound was up there, they never would have went there. Too expensive.
That's what it is.
There had to be something about the time because so many of you come from other places. I mean, Cal, you're from Ireland. Lenore, you're born in Australia. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
That's so crazy. Cleveland.
So crazy.
You never would have guessed that. In Canada, that's got to be like, was there like a voice acting troupe that you guys were a part of? Like, group
Sure. No,
guys?
no, it was meant to be. It was meant to happen.
That's amazing.
Canada's kind of a magnet.
It seems like it. It seems like for mutants.
Trudeau went to her campaign things.
Yeah, that's
all
crazy.
the time. All the time.
It kind of works.
Oh man, we got some people chiming in with their favorite X-Men. Put it in the chat.
Yes.
You heard their stars and their actual. Some picked others, some picked themselves. Dazzler says Cal is a real life Wolverine.
Yes, he
true.
is.
Dazzler and
No,
Dazzler.
it goes worse than it goes farther than that.
Yeah.
Before he got X-Men, he was the host of a Canadian TV show called Circus. Circus. What other
is that?
Wolverine was in a circus movie?
What?
He is Wolverine.
Look at the connects.
And
look at the connects.
He tells this crazy story about when he bought his house and he had been doing the show, so he was a little well known. And a 9-year-old kid was sitting across the street, his across the street neighbor,
Right.
and she sat there and watched them move in, and eventually got the courage to ask him for an autograph. And then 10 years later, they go into the room to record X-Men, and that girl is Jubilee.
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
That's amazing.
This guy has lived Wolverine's life.
For sure. For sure.
Catherine says number 1 Nightcrawler, number 2 Gambit. Nightcrawler number 1. Yeah, I mean people have
That's a good one.
Jazz is saying unpopular opinion, but I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I think we're all. I think everyone's.
I don't think that's unpopular.
Very unpopular. Very unpopular.
Now, unless she's saying that like he's the best Wolverine, we might have to have a conversation
about X-Men Origins. That's
right.
You know,
Whoa! That movie never came out.
We don't have. We don't have time for that panel today.
All right. So yeah, Seth, who's your favorite?
Yeah.
Well, in this show, it has to be Wolverine because he had the best lines. And the best line is not the two lines is when Morph dies and he goes, "Hey, Tin Woodsman, I'm going to send you back to Oz in pieces."
I've never seen that show. I don't know that show at all.
And then the other one is when they're infiltrating the Hellfire Club. They're trying to rescue Jean Grey. And there's some guy from the Hellfire Club that goes, "Where's my Chateau 59?" Wolverine comes out of the wine cellar, kicks him in the head, and goes, "Lousy year."
Because he was there, okay?
He knows.
The best line. He knows. Wolverine is good. He's good. But Gambit is my number one all-time favorite. You know, I mean, when you're talking about lines, how did you do that? With style, Petit, with style. Like that level of attitude when you're a young kid starting to get into girls and whatever, you're like, that's the dude I want to be. I want to be him. So yeah, Gambit has been my favorite forever.
Can I tell you my least respected, most underrated X-Men that I love? This series is there, but really because of the 2-screen arcade 8-player game.
Talk to me.
I've always been a bruiser, a favorite of the bruiser character, right? No one picks Colossus ever.
Nobody does.
Except for Deadpool.
And I know. Well, and even when Colossus came in there, I was like, this is a silly portrayal.
They're making fun of him.
And then in the movies, he's like there, and he's like, he like silvers up or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And for that one scene, and then does nothing else. And that poor actor, he was probably like, "Oh man, I'm Colossus. I'm gonna be like part of the X-Men," because he was always there. He was always there as the bruiser, but just
true.
In this show, they didn't have him. Yeah.
No, this show he wasn't there.
He was just in the one episode.
He shows up
in the one episode, right?
Yeah.
And he's furious with them. He says this is not the way to get the right relations between humans and mutants.
That's because they attack him right away, thinking that he did the work the Juggernaut did. Come on.
And his special move in the video game, when you hit the special, was like,
I love it.
Colossus. I'm going with Colossus.
No, that's a good one.
That's an unpopular opinion.
That's a good one.
Oh man, how about all the Saban? I love you mentioned this earlier, Seth, about bringing all these, like finding the cheapest route they could take. You know what I mean? And get everybody together. They make fun of Saban a lot.
They
in that
do.
Panel. They dig on Saban.
I didn't even realize that Saban was the financial backer of the show until we had this conversation. And I actually paid attention to the end credits on Disney Plus. Didn't realize it.
Yeah. And Saban, it was so interesting because they were not allowed to go to Los Angeles to film the crossover with Spider-Man. They couldn't do that. They sent in their voices. They never expected, and they were just like, "Well, that's not up to our level. Like that's not our thing." And it's so funny because that's the Marvel universe before the cinematic universe. Like they laid the groundwork for all of that, and all those shows all were interconnected.
Right.
Allison Sealy Smith spoke a little bit about, because she was in the crossover, the Spider-Man crossover, which you mentioned, Seth, and she actually touches base on it and exactly what you said. They didn't have a clue what they were even doing. She was like, it was another day at work where I just came in and had to record some lines, and then it came out, and then afterwards, because of how popular it was, that crossover is when they started to hear about it. I want to jump to that panel. So we're losing Victor, not from this live thing.
Womp.
As moderator, we brought in one of our favorite moderators, Byron Burton. He
a lot of favorites.
I know. I just say it because
I'm
like Larry Houston. I'm like, they're all my favorite children.
Smart.
Everybody be the favorite.
I can't say it. I can't rank people right now. But we jumped to the second panel, the second half. Larry and Cal stuck around. We brought on Allison, Chris, Britton, and Ron Rubin. And again, first time ever for Ron and Allison, like together with the crew as like a panel like this. So that was super awesome. This is them talking a little bit about their audition process. They talk about Mr. Sinister. It's a pretty long clip, but it touches on a little bit of each of their characters. It's super fun. I want to check this out, and then we'll come back in a bit for our final clip. But here we go. This is the second panel with that second group of voice actors from X-Men, the animated series. Here it is.
one of the messages I know that we tried to get across is that
Not that one. Spoiler. Spoiler.
Spoiler.
I had no idea what the X-Men were.
They morphed. Get it?
Didn't watch cartoons, had no idea what I was doing. But hey, let's go do this thing. I'm a working actress. I'd never done animation before, so it was great. I think that I had no idea what it was that I was going up for. I think I would have been maybe a little bit more intimidated had I known. But this was another gig. This was a gig. I'm a working actress. I'm gonna go out there and I kill it because I need it. Because that's I eat and I clothe my children, you know. So
it's so crazy that the early '90s voice actors had that mentality.
Yeah,
I remember that. I remember not knowing what to do because you go in there and for the, you know, they told me Storm is from North Africa. So I'm getting all those nice rounded, you know, trying to get my Nigerian accent thing happening, really bad at it. And then I go in there and for the first time, there's a recording. So they can tell you, you don't have to listen to it, but if you want to listen to it, this is a recording of the actress who had done it before.
Right.
There had been a
second story.
I think this one was Iona Morris.
Yeah.
And I went, why on earth?
And she has the monorail line.
The actress who did this before. If they want a new actress, then but then all of the people who were auditioning with me there were a lot of well-known actresses who came from Africa. And when I listened to the tape recording, there was no North African accent that I could discern, really.
Wow.
So my choice was, do I sound like the actress on the recording, or do I try to do this sort of more authentic continental accent?
Oh.
Lucky for me, I decided I was going to try to sound like Iona Morris, and I got it.
Hey, you make choices. You make choices.
I'm doing a lot of other kind of much more cartoony cartoons, you know, monsters and stuff. So this is a very different gig. So I think most of the actors, voice actors at the time in town went out for this. And you know, Marvel Comics and, you know, Stan Lee, it wasn't the empire that it came to be. I had heard of them, but I wasn't that familiar with you know.
Imagine that, a world where you didn't know what Marvel was.
Yeah, it's
and,
crazy.
For Morph, it was very interesting.
This show really brought the characters to the forefront.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But also they had me do Gambit.
You can see the first film. It's an homage to the animated series.
Oh, of course. I mean, look at the lineup. Look at who's in it.
That I could do different.
Except they changed Rogue too much.
Well,
it was awesome, and it was very different.
No one can match what Lenore did. No one can match what she did.
Just ask her; she'll tell you.
Audition.
Listen to Ron. Listen to Ron.
On camera as opposed to voice, because they got very real with the direction and going into the characters. But it was great.
Can I just say Byron's not that tall? Sorry.
Angles,
Chris
upshots.
Britton,
It's all
your
angles.
character was alluded to by Larry when Larry, you just had found out that the series got a pickup, and so
this is a cool, interesting story about Morph. This is a cool story about Morph.
Oh yeah, because the way the first season ended was Gina Scott on top of a hill discussing like getting married, having kids, and saying they didn't know what the future would held for them, but they said we wouldn't have it any other way. You ended on long shot, sunset, and fade out. That was the end of the series. And literally, while we're in post-production, putting it all together, doing all the final touches, they said, you got to pick up for season 2, but you got to change that ending.
Wow.
Early in post-production,
that's the ending story. This is good.
We had to move scenes around. And then the last line that the actors had was like, I think it was Gene saying, we don't know what the future holds. And then we manufactured like a computer screen with, lights flashing and stuff.
Wow.
And we had grabbed an engineer, and we said, "Here, say this." We kind of made it up on the line, on the spot. And it was like Sinister knows what the future holds. We just had him say something, drop it into the show. We added a computer shadow, and that was it. And that's how we created the end of season 1.
Yeah.
What? Listen, Joss Whedon totally stole that for Avengers. Like, that's literally the same thing.
Yep.
We're talking Saban here, no, but we knew we had to cast a good voice.
Yeah, and Chris Britton hadn't been hired yet.
That's wild.
actor.
Yeah,
and
because they
that's
didn't
how
have
I got
season 2.
Chris over there.
Literally, I mean, this is Thanos because they did that with Thanos, and then they hired Josh Later.
That
Well,
was
Chris,
something.
you've had a chance. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, that's something most people wouldn't know, and they didn't know for like 20 years until I started talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Only I
Revealing
knew.
the secrets. I love
So,
that.
Chris, I'd love to hear about your.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Listening
You have a
to
best friend.
Larry talk
Who
is the best. Oh my gosh. He just
Yes.
has so many awesome.
Oh my
awesome
God.
stories. You
Well,
guys
and
have
then
you,
it
as
was
fans,
his idea
oh,
to
sorry,
bring
Seth,
Morph back. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It was his idea to bring Morph back after they get the pickup, and that's he's connected to Sinister at the same time. So that panel is
Well,
literally the season 2 panel.
if you read this book, you find out a
read that
couple
book.
more things that suggest that it was Ron that really wanted to come back, and this was a nice appeasement to make
That's,
that work.
Eric and
Well,
Julia Lewald's book. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great book. And they actually talk about it on the panel. And again, for anyone who's tuning in, this is the Wizard World Rewatch Wednesdays. We watch some of our favorite clips, but you need to go back and watch the full panel. This
Absolutely.
we're just scratching the surface. And Seth, they actually talk about that as well with Morph coming back. Apparently it was the fans. So this was like, we talk about nowadays when the fans get on Twitter and they're like,
Right.
bring back whoever, or like bring back the
It's
season
Twitter
5.
before there was Twitter.
This was Twitter before there was Twitter. They did a poll of like audiences, like back with the old screen test, and they said, "Who's your favorite character from season 1?" And Morph was the kid's favorite character.
What? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Like out of everybody, out of Wolverine, out of Storm, out of Gambit, out
Dude
of
literally dies like in the first
In the first
episode.
scene. Yeah, the first
so they shoehorned him back in as evil
Wow.
Morph, evil Morph that's working with Sinister
I
and
love
things
it.
like that. Ah,
And
it's
you
so-
talk about social media before social media.
Right.
Mr. Mom can't be Batman.
That's right.
And
That's
Jason
right.
Todd, of course they were going to kill
They
him
gotta-
off.
they gotta
And you
kill-
knew they would kill Jason Todd with a 900 number.
You know what's amazing though is that the idea of evil Morph, of how they presented him with the bags and dark circles under his eyes, as
Oh,
opposed to
so
like
genius.
what Star Trek would have done, just would have been like give him a goatee and that makes him evil.
Like evil
yeah.
Spock.
Yeah. I love that idea. It was perfect.
Dazzler says Stefan, and I always butcher the name, Kapachik, Kapachik, I can't remember his name, who played Colossus, nailed Colossus, and Isabel
Nice.
said, "Hey, I love it.
Nice.
The Dark Guys, that always reminds me of, you remember the old, this is completely off topic, but hey, that's rewatch parties are all
Yeah,
about.
that's what we do.
The other best Dark Eye moment, animation, is the original Hobbit animated series.
Yes,
When he looks in and goes, my prec, and their eyes get dark. It was the scare.
Yes. Oh
thing.
my
I
God.
still have flashbacks to that.
Creep-tastic. Shout
Oh
out to
my
Ralph Bakashi for that. That is good stuff.
Oh, that
I'm older than you guys. I was in college, and we were definitely not sober when we saw the. We were like, how did his eyes get that dark?
Oh, I watched it as a young adolescent
older than you guys.
and remember just being frightened, but loving
That's
it, being
amazing.
like, this is so
This
dark.
is so terrible. I
It
can't
was-
watch.
Anyway, let's get back to X-Men. We talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but obviously the success. What do you both think? What do you both think? And then I want to segue that into our final clip, which I spoiled already. But what do you think has contributed to the lasting power of the series? It's now back again. They joke around about it being on Disney Plus and not getting paid, like they didn't get paid on Saban, so they make that reference again. But people are begging for it, and people are showing their children it's back. What do you think has been like sort of the big key to the success of the series?
I think the maturity of it. They do kind of mention that they didn't play down to kid audiences, though. That's definitely who it was geared towards. Fox Kids being in development and really making this for kid-friendly, entertainment. They made this a very grown-up series by way of having continuity, the character development, not having everyone be perfectly nice. There's a lot of things that they did that made it like the perfect bridge of generations. You could be grown and watch it, you could be little and watch it and enjoy all of it at the same time.
I just think it was brilliantly done in the sense that they were not trying to copy anybody, and they had an edge about them that was very Marvel, but before Marvel had that edge.
Right.
That's what the Marvel comic books were like.
Right.
And, Batman the Animated Series was an amazing series, but X-Men stood on its own and didn't have to piggyback off of Batman's success. X-Men was,
in fact,
Batman's success probably led to the season 2. because they were like, hey, these superhero shows are going somewhere. But X-Men
I don't know.
carved its own identity, because if you look at the timeline of the whole thing, you know, Batman was signed for 65 episodes, but X-Men was 13.
Right.
And
But
they
I mean,
had to
Batman
get
was
the season
also
2.
Batman was also signed like almost a whole year and a half before
Right.
X-Men was. So I don't know. I think like not even just the nature of it being comic book stuff was good. I think Batman was fantastic without question. But X-Men was great on a totally different level. That is why it definitely made it work, you know, in lieu of or in spite of what Batman did.
And Larry Houston says they took the comic book stories, but they evolved them.
Right.
They weren't retelling the Phoenix Saga. They weren't retelling.
They did their
Days of
own
Future
version,
Past.
which was
They
amazing.
did their own version, and it's
Yeah.
brilliant. When Wolverine is looking at the cemetery and he sees all the graves for
Oh my God.
Cyclops, and then
Yeah.
he focuses in on Jubilee because she was so young. And it's
2010, like that was the future back
Right.
then.
The
Okay.
future was 2010.
It's crazy. You know, the three of us and then a bunch of our other friends and folks, we always have that Marvel versus DC battle, right? And we're always
Right.
talking about the films and things like that. But really, when you think about it, those two series, both amazing, you know
Oh,
what I mean,
incredible.
in their
Yes.
own right. But really, I think the core of Marvel versus DC, and again, I think it's always the thing. Shouldn't be versus. It's just like Marvel or DC, and it's just kind of
Right.
depending on what mood you're in. You know, both really defined the genre at the time and set the bar for the genre moving forward. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like DC escapism, like big bold characters with crazy colors. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
and then like Marvel, darker, right? Like more character driven. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's crazy. I never thought about
It
breaking
was
it
a
down.
decade later. A
Yeah.
Yeah,
decade
it's
later, when
brilliant.
they did Justice League, X-Men had already completed its run.
Right.
And
Right.
it's wild, and the idea of having that many characters and that many people, and it's truly a golden time, because you know Victor and I have done whole podcasts on the fact that back then you could have shows that were geared toward kids, but they were for adults.
Right.
Now it's either Teen Titans Go or it's the rated R DC animated
Right.
films. Like
Right.
it's
Like they don't know how to bridge
separated
that gap right now.
anymore.
Like,
They don't
and
do it.
it's incredible. I mean, and yes, there were silly parts about it, like Wolverine popping his claws in and kicking people. Sure, that was silly,
Yeah.
but that's because you couldn't stab people on on Fox Kids. But at the same time, there was still the maturity. Like you had a love triangle, like a legit love triangle. Imagine seeing that at 10 years old and having the understanding of what it was.
And in
Brilliant.
real life, the actress who played Jean Grey married Professor X.
That's awesome. That says so many things, though.
It was shipping before shipping was a thing,
Yes,
guys. And
yes.
people were
And
all
when,
about
when-
it.
and
We
when they
should
told me
celebrate
that, I said in the New Orleans panel, and I said, but he loved Lalandra.
Man, Lalandra didn't become the Phoenix. That happens. There you go.
So cool. So cool. People are saying one of the actors said it already. Viewers were not treated like kids with the way they wrote it. You know,
That's right.
X-Men is better. Brian says, if my ship comes in financially, which I believe it will soon, me and my wife Leah would love to be a co-producer in a new X-Men series. No joke here. Seriously, Brian Johnson says,
Say
Brian,
that.
Yeah,
They
get in
want
touch.
to.
Yes. Make it happen.
Just don't make it the Thundercats cartoon that's currently out, or
That doesn't exist either.
jump
That does
ship.
not exist either. No.
You guys see Teen Titans Go mock them?
I'm okay.
Do
With,
they
and
really?
that's the thing. Yeah, I'm okay with Teen Titans Go because they present exactly what they're supposed to
Exactly.
be. Right.
Right.
It's a parody on purpose. You know, it's the same voice actors.
Of
I
course.
love Teen Titans Go, but Thundercats was a reimagining that I just don't think. works.
Thundercats
In the
Roar.
Teen Titans
Is that-
Go
that's the one you're
episode,
talking about?
Yeah,
Thundercats Roar.
they have to go into the multiverse to find the original Lion-O to get rid of the show Thundercats Roar. It's
That's
so
amazing.
funny.
I haven't seen that one.
like
I gotta
that.
say. Let's watch our final clip. We're about out of time, but we're talking a lot about what our favorite parts of the show were, why we think the show was so successful. We're talking about the dark nature of it, the dark themes, and here are the actors and more importantly, Larry Houston talking about the social issues that the show addressed at the time. Take a look.
Beautiful.
One of the messages I know that we tried to get across is that it's okay to be different.
Mhm.
It's okay to be yourself, and that family matters.
Hear
And
that truth.
sometimes family's not the ones you're born with. Sometimes family's the ones that you choose.
Along the way.
Say it again.
Exactly.
Very well done.
And I would also add to that I felt the part of the reason I love doing the X-Men is because it reached out to everybody and was all about all of us coming together, no matter what race you are, no matter what gender, what sexuality. It was all about people coming together for the common good. And even if they were, being tormented by government figures or whatever, that they still wanted to do the right thing and come together for the good of all. And that for me is definitely a message for today as well. And again, congratulations to all my American friends.
Thank you. We're slipping
Little
those
subtle,
messages
yeah.
that X-Men has presented through the years.
This was Saturday, so a lot of things were happening on
Well,
Saturday.
like Howard said, there was that unification of all people and that we are all one. And the fact that because you are different, you do have the higher incidence of being oppressed or judged, persecuted. And at that time, having come out of the 60s and the 70s, we were all hoping to change the world.
Yeah, that's true.
And
very well said.
We had this expectation that when we took over, when we became our parents, that all these problems that we saw would disappear. And yet today, what we're finding is that those very same issues that we found in X-Men are even more applicable today than they were 27 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you hear him become Beast just now? Like he just did
Yeah.
it. Chris, Cal, do you want to add to that?
Well, I would say
No.
kind of,
No, I mean, they've said it all. I mean, it's
I
what they said.
say kindness and inclusivity was one thing, and everyone's desire to be loved,
Of course.
an underlying
Yep.
drive for every one of those characters in their own way. And I think that was it was all wrapped up in an action oriented
True. Very true.
story that kept people excited. But I always admired that the show never insulted the intelligence of the audience. And
Right.
we're dumbing people down. And I think that it was real proof, at least to my thoughts in this business, that there is higher ground. But you have to be willing to take the chance to write to that. And too often we find in our industry that the lowest common denominator is catered
Bless
to.
you.
So that was refreshing with the X-Men, and clearly it's proof that it worked.
Absolutely. I think the show had a maturity to it, even in the sense of continuity for a kid show, where previous episodes would be referred to in later episodes and have meaning and intent. That was one of the greatest things about it was things matter, and that's a huge thing to teach young minds at a very pivotal time, is that the things that happen here, you might not understand it, but it can matter in the long run, and you'll see it. And X-Men is a great showcase of that. That moderator is spitting right now, y'all. He is telling some truth.
He can't even let us praise you.
It comes from
You do a podcast.
the
I
root of
should,
it.
man. I should do one.
We had
Not X-Men specific.
Larry's probably
Or
not
DC
gonna agree
oriented.
with me, but I would say genius minds, fueling that fire.
Yeah,
We were,
so he just says at the end there how genius Larry was, which we
Uh,
can all
absolute
agree,
facts.
I think. Yeah.
All
And
facts.
man, how about those things? I mean, what about some themes that we need today? You know what I mean? That
Right,
we
man.
need to be reminded of today. And so Catherine has a cute story. I never forget the episode where Master Mold threw Trask's logic back in his own face by saying that mutants were humans. It's like, yes, even the giant murderous robot gets it.
So why are we having this conversation, guys? Like, come on.
Yeah. Obviously the whole thing's on Disney Plus. So check that out.
Yes.
Hey, Seth and Victor, we're out of time, but it was so fun having you both on here to kind of relive and nerd out about it. Tell everybody, both of you guys, where we can find out more about other things that you do besides Wizard World panels.
So you can find me at Vantage In-House. Follow me right now on Twitter, Instagram. I'm a self-publishing comic book creator. So if you want to read some amazing books, some award-winning titles that I have written, check it out, vantageinhouse.com. Also, you can find me at You Create Comics, which is the letter U, C-R-E, the number 8, comics.com, where I am using comic books to promote classroom fundamentals. So trying to use comics to help kids out with their learning. So check me out there.
Boom.
And real quick, you can find me on Twitter at Seth_Everett. But the Hall of Justice is what we're here for. Recent episodes, we did a tribute to Chadwick Boseman. We spoke to voice actors John DiMaggio, also Batman director Brandon Vietti, Ralph Garman, Kevin Smith, Perry Gilpin, and Catherine McNamara, all on the podcast. So just wherever you find podcasts, subscribe to the Hall of Justice.
Believe it.
Boom. And I've been Mike G. I'm your director of programming here at Wizard World. Shout out to Jerry, who's behind the scenes right now streaming. Thank you for Jerry. Jerry's going to be joining me. And yeah, a Fistful of Radio podcast. They reflect back on old classic TV shows. We're going to rewatch the Land of the Lost panel later tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So come join us back again in 90 minutes or so for that. Some other fun stuff we got going on this week. First of all, we do these to remind you that this is free. The panel was free. We have a ton of free content, but there are some paid experiences as well. So all of those actors are going to be doing live one-on-one video chats this Saturday, the November 14th. So go purchase those at Wizard World Virtual or wizardworldvault.com. They're doing a group session, y'all. So it's going to be crazy. They're doing a group chat for a real reasonable price, considering what you could pay for all of them individually. They're also all signing an exclusive Larry Houston print. So that's up there. So pretty bananas, pretty wild. So check that out at wizardworldvault.com. And then hang out with us this weekend. We've got some new live panels. I'll be moderating the Pirates of the Caribbean panel. We have a bunch of the pirates from the original Pirates series. It's gonna be so fun. We have a ton of Power Ranger villains hanging out with us this weekend. The cast,
not the heroes, just the villains.
Just the villains, man. Bad guys.
It's a specific one.
That's right.
And the original Ninja Turtles movie, Ernie Reyes Jr. and Judith Hoag on Sunday.
Cool.
Yeah, that's coming up this weekend. On behalf of Wizard World, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.